Welcome to another episode of NFL News on the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry, and today wanted to go through the current playoff picture as it stands today and kind of just do a what if the playoffs was today. And also just wanted to talk a little bit about the Pro Bowl. I won't go too long on it because I think there might be a little bit more to discuss in depth, but I just had a couple comments for today. So as far as the playoff picture, one thing that I like that they also finally put on Madden, but they're also doing on NFL.com is showing like the current playoff picture. And so usually they pull this up. I mean, it is right around the end of the season, but usually, when we get the standings, I like to go through. Some people do the Madden simulation or whatever. But I was just kind of like, okay, yeah, like, what would this be if it was to play out today? So I just want to kind of do that and give my thoughts on it. And I would say overall, it would be some really good games right now. Like, I think for the most part, I think this is what we're going to get, especially in the NFC. There might be a little bit of changing of the seeding, but I think this is kind of the teams we're going to get. In the AFC, it's a much more tougher race, but really I think the Ravens are the only ones that can really make a chance to get in. But yeah, like I said, overall some good games. So let's start off on the NFC side. So we would have Saints versus Cardinals. And so Saints would be at home as the higher seed. This would be an intriguing matchup. I don't think the Cardinals is a true 7th seed. Like, that's not a team that I would want to face in the playoffs with D-Hop being as dangerous as he is. And if Kyler Murray is healthy, that's just that's a dangerous team to play. And you got a dome, and they're used to the dome. So, they got that fast turf. And the offense is pretty, I wouldn't say explosive, but they got firepower. Now, the defense, though, for the Cardinals, that's the question mark. That's where it's like, yeah, you can pass on them, and teams have. And so that becomes the bigger question mark. And obviously the Saints, when they're rolling, they pass the ball. But Mike Thomas is a big question mark. Is he in or not? Honestly, I think with him in or not, the biggest question is Drew Brees. If Drew Brees is healthy, even against the Chiefs we saw, they can still move the ball. They still got a lot of weapons. They still can do things. But it just depends if Drew Brees is getting back into his rhythm and if he's healthy enough to just be on schedule. Not to say that he has to light it up or anything, but can he be on schedule and on time, or is he just going to be a tick off? So if Breeze is good to go, I'd like the Saints here because the Saints, despite what they did against the Chiefs, they are one of the better run-stopping defense, and the Cardinals aren't a great run team. Kyler runs around, but Keon Drake and that rushing attack is not super formidable. And so with that D-line and that front seven, I would see the Saints stopping that and making them one-dimensional. And I'm sure the Cardinals don't mind getting into a passing game. But again, I just think if you're talking about the Saints defense versus the Cardinals and then the Saints versus the Cardinals defense, I like the Saints in this matchup. So then we have Seahawks versus the Buccaneers, and that would be just such an interesting game. Two of our greater quarterbacks of the past, few years or so, or not few, but you know what I mean. And so Seattle, and you don't have the fans to make it a home field advantage that you usually would. And also, they just haven't been great. I mean, they haven't. You see some of the games they play close and who they play close to, even losing to the Giants. And it's tough. But I would say it would come down to the defensive front of the Buccaneers and Seattle's run game. That's what it would come down to. if Sue and the rest of that D line, because I think Vita Vea is out for the rest of the year, not sure, but if Levante David, Devin White, Sue, and all those guys, if they're able to neutralize Chris Carson and Hyde in that run game, this game's kind of over. I mean, you got DK and you got Russ and Carson, and they're good. And the Bucs, I would say, they're not great in pass defense. They've had some hot streaks, but they've also got torched. But I really think it's the run game. It would have to balance it out, because if you were stopping them dead cold with no run game and you force Russ to go 55 times passing or something and to be in that pocket against those pass rushers, I just don't see it happening. So I think that's what the game would come down to. And then on the other side, Seattle, his defense has been playing better of late, but you're talking about Tom Brady and some crazy weapons. And it's hard for me because I want to say Tom would shred them, but Tom and them have shown to be shrieky as well. But I just got to take the weapons of Tom Brady and the Bucs if you're going against Seattle, who, even if they're playing well, they're not one of our better defenses. So that's the way I would lean. I would probably go Buccaneers. And then you have the Washington football team versus the LA Rams, which I think would be an easy choice for me if the Rams didn't just drop one to the Jets. Obviously, we know what firepower they have on offense. We know which playmakers they got on defense. It seems like a team that would be a no-brainer. But with the Jets, I hesitate a little bit. I'm still picking the Rams because Haskins. Like, Alex Smith, I don't think will be healthy enough at that time. And so Haskins, there's no way. I wouldn't say no way, but there's little chance that Haskins can do what it takes against Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and that defense to keep them in the game. And it doesn't take the Rams much to put up 14 points. And honestly, if the Redskins are down, I was like, I'm going to do it. I call Las Vegas, Oakland. I do it all the time. But if the Washington football team is down 14 points, that's over with. I just don't see them coming back. So I would take the Rams. Going over to the AFC, you would have the Bills-Dolphins, which would be an interesting game. And the Bills' defense is good. They're not amazing or elite by any stretch, but I think they're good enough to really bottle Tua up. I still have not question marks about Tua, but it's going to take some time for Tua to develop into an NFL quarterback. Not to say that he's not good, but he's got to learn to read and be more decisive. And so I just think that with Buffalo spending time to really dissect Tua and put out a game plan, I don't see that going too well for Tua. And the run game of the Dolphins isn't bad, but I just don't see it. And the Dolphins have a really good defense, but the way Allen is playing right now with Diggs, I got to take them. And then we will have Steelers versus the Colts. And the Steelers, it just seems like a mess. It seems like a mess. Even if you got Vince Williams back, obviously you won't get Bud Dupree or Devin Bush back, but I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on with them, but they seem like a mess, and that was before they lost to the Bengals. I was like, the Steelers are kind of a mess, but never in my mind did I think they would lose to the Bengals. And so now I'm just like really like, ugh, that's kind of tough. So it would be hard for me to say that the Colts with that type of run game, where even if the Steelers were at the top of their, if they're pretty stout, I still think that run game's a factor for the Colts at any point with that O-line and Jonathan Taylor. And so if you ever get a turnover or you need to slow the tempo down, the Colts can do that. Phillip Rivers definitely has enough, and he's decisive enough to throw the ball. And the Steelers defense isn't I would say their strength isn't in the pass. And so I don't think that it would be too much for their receiving core to get the better of the Steelers' corners. But again, I think that run game really neutralizes a lot. And then their defense, I mean, we know what they're going to do. We know that they're going to be tough. They can't be beat, but they want to throw short with Pittsburgh. And that's kind of the game. I mean, the Colts play cover 2, a little bit of man 2. They want everything to stay in front of them. So I don't think they would be mad at that game plan. And if the Steelers can't run the ball against other teams, you trying to go against DeForest Buckner and Stewart and Houston and all them, that's a tough game. I got to take the Colts on that one. Then Titans Browns. This is like one I can't pick because the Browns blew the Titans out. Even the Titans came back. They destroyed them in the first half. And the Titans have been really hot lately, hotter than the Browns, I would say, but they've been hot lately. And I think this game against Green Bay this week is going to tell me a lot about them, but it's tough. The thing for me that makes it different is that the Titans defense is really lowly ranked. And so the Browns aren't great, but they're not as bad as the Titans, as evidenced by the Browns getting busy on them. And that's Baker. They didn't even really get into their Chubb and Hunt bag against the Titans where they were just gashing them the whole game. It was a lot of Baker. And so if you add in a good game for either one, Hunt or Chubb, but both, oh man, that's tough. The Titans would be at home, but Browns are built for that weather and everything as well. Obviously, the Titans would be able to run, but Tannehill's been hot. And again, the Browns defense ain't no world beaters, but if Denzel Ward is healthy, that helps a little bit. You could pretty much take A.J. Brown out if you wanted to, or at least make it difficult, but it's a tough game, man. I just don't know if the Titans would get disrespected like that twice, especially at home. So it's hard for me to pick because I could see this going either way, but I guess at the moment I'll be leaning towards the Browns just because Baker has helped to complement a little more what Chubb and Hunt do. However, if it was like a, nasty game, I think the Browns could still run the ball. So that's where I'm at. So then that would bring us to the next round, where it would be Packers-Bucks. And so Packers-Bucks would be crazy. At first, I was like, that'd be crazy, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. Then I remember they played each other already, and it did not go Aaron Rodgers' way. But similar to the Titans, I just don't see Aaron Rodgers and the Packers being disrespected like that 2 times in a row. And the Packers would be at home, which would make a very big difference than being down in Tampa, especially in playoff weather. It'd be interesting because I think if the Bucks could stop the Seahawks run game, then they probably can stop the Packers run game. And that, doesn't make Aaron any never mind to pass the ball more, but whenever you get one-dimensional, it makes it tough. And Aaron Rodgers is a bad dude, man. He's a bad dude. And he could easily shred that Bucks pass defense like the quarterbacks have. And I just don't see them shutting him down twice. I just can't see that. And so it would be interesting, though. It would be very interesting. Packers defense, they don't perform up to the level of talent they have, but they still got a lot of talent. And the Bucks got a lot of firepower as well. It would just be a good game. I think it would be much closer to the game we expected the first time they played rather than the blowout. And I know some people, people going to call me blasphemous on 2 different levels for this, but I'm probably picking the Packers in that game just because it's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers. And I love Tom Brady, big Tom Brady fan. But he's just not where he was, where he used to be, I should say. Then we will have Saints versus the Rams, which would be a good game. That's an interesting game. I do think that O-line could find a way to minimize the damage by Aaron Donald for the Saints. And I do think Breeze could spread the ball around. Jalen will be there. So I think they could play with that Rams defense. The question is, would the Rams be able to get any run game going? Because they like to do a lot of play action stuff, a lot of crossing stuff, but it does kind of predicate on them having at least a decent run game. And with the Saints, with who they got and how they play, it wouldn't be too hard for them to just have somebody punch that backside and take away that bootleg that the Rams like to run a lot and still be effective enough to stop the run. And so it'd be the question. I know Cam Akers is hurt at the moment. I don't know if he'll be back, but they got a lot of running backs there. So it would come down to that. How well can they run the ball and set up their play actions that they like to do? And they're explosive. They are explosive. As far as Cooper Kupp and Woods, a lot of weapons there, but I think Saints is just more of a complete team, so I would probably take them. Chiefs would then face the Colts, and I got the Chiefs on that. I mean, I think if you had an issue really stopping Deshaun Watson twice, you're going to have an issue stopping Pat Mahomes. And I 100%, that cover 2 ain't going to work. Like with Tyreek Hill, that cover 2 is not going to work. And so you'll have a lot of issues on that side of the ball. And then Phillip Rivers versus the Chiefs defense, I would assume it would come down to a ball control type game, trying to keep the ball away from Pat Mahomes, trying to control the clock, and trying not to put the ball downfield too much. But yeah, I gotta take the Chiefs in that one. Then you have Bills versus the Browns. And honestly, I got Browns/Titans. Either way, this would be a great game. I think, especially if it's not like a snow fest, which can always happen in Buffalo. If it's like somewhat playable weather, it would be interesting. It's just, Josh Allen ain't no joke right now. And so Bills-Browns, yeah, I think Diggs would get busy. And if Diggs didn't get busy, Cole Beasley would get busy. And the one thing about the Buffalo Bills that I think about is their run game or question. It's like, I feel like they should have a better run game, especially from what they came from in the last few years as an offense. But I still think if the weather doesn't force it to be a run game, I think Josh Allen would be comfortable playing the Browns. Now, on the other hand, the Browns rush attack versus the Bills, I think would be a problem. I think that'd be a big problem. Or if it's the Titans and their rush attack, I think that'd be a big problem for them. And that would really, because if you get a 3-and-out, a couple 3-and-outs or a turnover on Josh Allen, and then you got Chubb and them going to work, the Browns could win that game. They definitely could. And again, you got Baker at the point where he's complementing the run game really well. It's tough. It's a close one for me, so I kind of went with home field advantage, which doesn't mean a whole lot this year, but also went with just the quarterback that's playing the best. And even if they are containing Diggs, I think Josh Allen can do some other things. But I would give the Browns a hell of a chance to win that, but I would take the Bills. So then it would come down to Packers, Saints, Chiefs, Bills, which is kind of what everybody has right now. Packers, Saints, I gotta go with the Packers. I don't know why. I just think Aaron. I really don't even have evidence to back this up, but I just think Aaron Rodgers would do well against the Saints. And the Saints are kind of snake bitten in the playoffs, but that'd be a good game. That'd be a real that's the game that a lot of people are looking at because that would be pretty matched up. The only thing that would be better is if they were in a dome, but being out in Lambeau in the middle of the winter for the Saints, that could change things because as much as they can get Alvin Kamara involved, I don't think they that type of run team. But the Packers defense hasn't been super physical this year. But, you know, with that amount of talent, I gotta believe that they would be able to beat the Saints. And then you got Chiefs Bills. I think that's a good game. I don't think the Bills offense or the Bills defense would be able to slow Pat Mahomes down at all. And then that would be a question of if Josh Allen could keep up, which could make this an amazing game or it could make it over quick because I don't think that Josh Allen and the Bills is a team that is guaranteed to score every drive or threaten every drive, especially against a decent defense. So not to say that they wouldn't, but, you know, again, pretty similar, not similar to the Browns, but kind of. If you go 3 and out or if you get a turnover against the Chiefs, it ain't going to be ball control. They're going to put it in the end zone. And so you much rather have a Browns team that can grind the clock down and play keep away because if you just get the ball, you could make a play. But with the Chiefs, if they get the ball, they're going to score. And then now it's not, hey, we need more chances. You just won't have enough time in the game to put up that many points. You won't have enough possessions. And so I honestly think the Chiefs will win that one pretty decently. Not like a blowout, but I think the Chiefs would be 10 points up on the Bills. And so then that would be Chiefs-Packers in the Super Bowl. And I don't know about everybody last year, but that's what I wanted. And that's what I still want. Pat Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, 2 best quarterbacks playing right now. It would be entertaining, to say the least. I think it would be a shootout. I think Honey Badger makes a difference, but for the most part, Aaron Rodgers is going to pick apart that defense. He's going to know exactly where he wants to go. And I think they would be able to get Aaron Jones going pretty decently. And so the Packers, they got a lot of talent on defense. Unless the Williams brothers were cooking, or not the Williams, Smith. Yeah, Preston Smith is Darius Smith. Unless they were cooking and were heating up Pat Mahomes, I think Pat Mahomes would now. You might have Jair go against Tyreek the whole time, but then Travis Kelce is going to feast because that's really where the Packers aren't that great is at the linebacker spot. But it would be interesting. I'm not even sure I would pick anything right now, but the way I have it all planned out right now would be Packers Chiefs in the Super Bowl, which is kind of the number one versus number one, but that's the path that I see. All right, so Pro Bowl, real quick. Interestingly enough, I did not know that the Pro Bowl was decided by coaches and players and fans. I thought that the whole time that it was pure fan vote, kind of like the NBA. And so I guess I was just running because I knew you could vote as a fan, and I know the NBA does that as well. So I kind of just put them all together. I did not realize that the players and coaches voted. Now, I haven't seen anything as far as the specifics of how that works. Like, do they just have a link for all players, or do they send out a survey to each team and just have them fill out a ballot? Like, I don't know how that goes, but I would assume anybody that wants to vote is represented, whether you're a starter or not. But I don't know. Do they just give it to the starters? I don't know. But either way, it's supposed to take a third, and a third. Which, yeah, I guess. So Mathematically, I don't know how that breaks down because I'm sure there's a lot more votes from the fans than it is from the coaches, and then the players is more votes than the coaches as well. So whatever, they mathematically balance it out, and I guess they all count equally. I did not know that. I didn't know that because, like the NBA, when these games come, now I ain't talking about the actual game. I'm just talking about the system. When these things come out, I kind of just scoff it off because it's like, whatever, it's fan voted. Like, fans don't know. The mass majority of fans do not know. They don't watch enough football to know who's better. They gonna vote for who's on their team. That's what I do I used to. I don't vote anymore, but I used to vote all the time. Just like, who's the Bears? But, that's what fans gonna do. And so I was like, whatever. But I did not know that there's a player and coach component. Now, that does add a little bit more legitimacy, and I know that it's not everybody's favorite, but it is nice to know that players, they're going to have their own motivation. So will the fans, but so will coaches. And motivations politically, also, there's going to be gaps. Players are going to see players they never seen actually play, or they might not watch film because they don't play them that year. And then coaches as well, same thing. So they might look over somebody because they don't know much. And also, a lot of players have said that Pro Bowl tends to be more of a name recognition award. Now, to me, I always was like, yeah, because that's the fans' fault. But it also plays into that with the players and coaches. Even though they know more and they see more, they're more credible, they still tend to pick out the players that have the bigger names because those are the ones they game plan for. Those are the ones they see. And so they don't always have younger players on their radar or whatnot. It just depends. Now, I think that's changing more with social media and all that. And, there's much more highlights and all those things and all that. But for the most part, it turns out to be more the bigger name. And you get some players, especially like O-line, that just go all the time, even though they don't deserve it. And so, to me, it was a little bit shocking. And I was just like, okay, maybe it's better than I thought. But I figured it out because the fans know. I mean, I honestly don't know that there's a place. I know you want fan interaction and engagement, but I don't even know that there's a place in selecting the fans, or selecting the Pro Bowl for fans. I like the All-Pro. Most people like the All-Pro because it's by objective people. And people talk about the media, me included. I talk more about sports media, which is the TV entertainment people, not like the actual journalists who go out there and do it. But the press, the media, the journalists, they play an important role because they are objective. And so you always see these new shows with former players doing their own podcasts and blah, blah, blah. And you just see how nice they are. And it's like, yeah, man, the media always talking trash, but those players won't really ask tough questions because they're too close to each other. There's too much political there. And there's, politics going on with writers, but they get to be more objective because they're removed from the situation. So, you could count people in PFF, whatever, Pro Football Focus, PFF. I don't really use that stuff, but you could kind of look at them as journalists as well, but they're looking at it from the objective standpoint. And so that's why I always like the All-Pro stuff, because that's a little bit more objective. But getting back to the Pro Bowl, I think I figured it out because fans, I don't think there's a space for them. And then players and coaches, they have the gaps we talked about. I think the Pro Bowl should be selected by the scouts, by the professional, the pro scouts. So most teams, every team I would imagine, has their college scouts that scout talent going into the draft. Then they have pro scouts that or scout current players in the NFL so they can have profiles ready in case they go into free agency or if they might want to trade or whatever. I think you should have the scouting departments. It could be just the pro scouting or it could be the whole scouting department. I think the scouting department from each team should get together and create a ballot and submit it. And then you'll have 32 ballots, and then that is how they should come up with the Pro Bowl list. And potentially a combination of players and coaches where maybe it doesn't count as much as the scouts. But to me, I think the most credible source that you could pick would be the scouts because they're looking at the film. They're tracking these things. They're looking at the stats. They're looking at all that. And I think that's where they live in. That's the area they live in. So I think it would make sense to have them pick the Pro Bowl. So that's just my thought. All right, so that's it for me. Go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the conversation started. And thank you for listening.